Evening, y'all. Tonight we're going to be painting these cold blue flames using ProAcryl paints by Monument Hobbies, as well as some other materials. Let's get going. To start off, we're going to be adding bold titanium white to sky blue in order to get a very light shade of blue for our base coat. That was about a 4:1 ratio. One thing to be mindful of when using ProAcryl paints is that the dropper bottle is quite stiff and you have to squeeze fairly hard to get the paint out, which makes it quite easy to add more paint onto the palette than you intended. So proceed with caution. I think I would like that to be a little lighter. That's better. Very nice. It's important to use a very light shade of the color you're using for your base coat, so that once you place the white into the interior of the flame, it'll transition more easily into the color. There we go. Notice that I've also painted the base the same light shade of blue. That'll be important later. Next up, we're going to be diluting bold titanium white with a contrast medium so that we can create a wash that will sink into the recesses. I'm going to let that coat dry and apply a second. There we go. I ended up using several coats of the white to really get a solid coverage. Next up, we're going to continue to mix bold titanium white with sky blue, but in a lower ratio of white in order to start darkening the flames. I've just added some more blue to the pile here. It'll be a little bit darker when we apply it. The ratios don't have to be super exact, just so long as we're gradually darkening as we go further outside the flame towards the tips. One thing I've noticed while working with this mixed paint is that it tends to go on with a lighter color that it ends up having when it dries. It tends to darken as it dries. This can make it a little deceptive to tell what you're actually painting with. And now using about a 1:1 ratio. Now we're just going to use sky blue on its own to continue darkening the flames as well as the teeth. Now this admittedly can be a finicky and time-consuming process, and if your blends don't turn out perfectly, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes you might notice a delineating line between colors, and ultimately, if you're just going for a tabletop standard, it's not going to be very noticeable. The basic impact of having the white to dark colored contrast is going to go a long way in producing the impression of heat and flames. Learning how to thin and mix paints is a very useful skill, however, when it comes to trying to achieve some higher level techniques like non-metal metallics and freehanding and tiny little gemstones and such. Next up, we're going to be mixing sky blue with pants blue to just darken the very tips of the flames as well as the teeth. There we go. Almost done. Now we're going to really darken the teeth with just some small dots of dark gray blue as well as coal black. Just a tiny dot. There we go. Next up, we're going to apply a layer of PVA glue to the base, and once that dries, some AK Dark and Dry Crackle effects. That's some wet paint in that. That's fine. Now that the Crackle paint is dried, we can see the paint that we applied to the base between the fissures. This was just a light shade of blue that we used for our base coat initially, as well as some white later on. It really helps tie the mini together. And there we go, our fully painted cold blue flames. Something that's really stood out about the ProAcryl paints is how vibrant they are. They tend to have a very strong pigmentation, as well as a really nice smooth consistency in the paint itself. I haven't run into any issues with chunkiness or paint that's streaking and not applying well. They've really been fun to work with. ProAcryl paints. Get them now at BC Hobbies, and check out my Instagram at ArielMoreMinis.